Pollination and its types tama. So outbreeding devices next topic engine. Outbreeding devices this chapter 2 reproduction in sexual reproduction in flowering plants akibolal ma. Outbreeding devices te banga devices te ka masanga ka banga self-pollination to cross-pollination tung tangai chu self-pollination ti changa chu amauli mo self engine enter the pollen grains of the enter and the stigma pin ha maule ma self ki breed mo that is self-pollination maule ma ki pollinate ka self engine tu den lama close ki te khai chibe wala mala thela banga ki close te kha Kesmogamus mo histogamus mo pin kha mo ala Waya ki close gigi mo jang self fertilization to self pollination anom so changa khabangchi continuous de wa anom le bangchi di angengi mahi hidi jumala genes teo ki bang di changa khabanga ki bat differences adnu apada ata mole afla the parent plan apada kha a daughter plant te kha hi lo le ata teu kha banga akibat lo na khat sangom lo di ki bang mai di cha that is something which we don't like. I mean which is more disadvantage tamzoi chu self pollination sort pionom chang a mom chu differences om lo de chang a continuous jawa kha self pollination flower hanom chang a bang chidi continuous jawa nom chang wa continuous jawa self pollination nom chang wa bang chidi banga hon swak thaidi it will result in inbreeding depression. Inbreeding chu amawle mawmo breeding a male to female pair inside the same flower. Inbreeding depression changa aiming to depression dan dewa alung kham thi chu hilaw mo hilazong differences som lo di mole ki bang de changa genetic makeup. That means there will be no variations mole differences som lo di anu to ta kha pak ti kha sing ti kha differences om lo di why chubai hoina there will be no variations. Now if we continuously do self pollination, the plant will never have variations, and that variations or changes is very important for the next generation next dia kha ki bat lo nam chang kha hoi kha sort hoi zo male hoi zo ki bat lo nam chang ha combination tom hoi zaga kha outbreeding chi chang achu out cha chu apola male cross pollination om theina dinga kha till omte cross pollination omthena denga till omte kha white kha outbreeding devices kichi to prevent self pollination to favor cross pollination omthena denga kha pak tia kha bang chidan dewa mu hiam bang chile cross pollination omtheding ham chi khoma white pin kha outbreeding devices kichi. So why do we need to study outbreeding devices? Because when the plants they continuously self-pollinate, it can result in what? Inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression changa kha bang chidi a fertility will decrease teacher. Mole capability to produce mole and produce the variations or differences mole in the next generation. But a vigor mole ahoy nateo le hai te khong le ki reduce theidi hai jaga kha cross pollination kha poimo. So inbreeding depression om lo dinga le the variations om theni dinga kha cross pollination poimo. So those devices which favor the cross pollination and to prevent self pollination mo why devices te kha bangkichi they are known as outbreeding devices. Self pollination in bang form the inbreeding depression. Inbreeding depression chi changa kha fertility decrease the variation som lo di. Evatwa devices te chu bang cross pollination favor di mole. Cross pollination favor di pana self pollination om lo di. Wai te khabanga devices te. Mo wai te khabanga devices te. Those devices they are known as what? Outbreeding out changa chu cross china chu male polama cross pollination om thena dinga kha banga why devices te so ma bang din naging tao plants te bang chan te omule cross pollination na thei dio ban variation som thei di fertility te increase thei di hoi thei di a vigor te increase thei di wai te kha bang banga chi li vel of in chin mo textbook a kha then for example pollen grains te kha entire pollen grains te kha mature ta cha import khetao chile a stigma pin kha atuna thoda na same flower stigma pin kha mature nai lo le ana receive thei nai lo di mole ochile bang chi di self pollination ki prevent thei di wai kha thingal cha cross pollination a pak to ma pada kha pollination amai te te di chia here a pollen grains ka for example if the pollen grains of the entire they are released when they are mature they are released but then the stigma they are not able to receive because they are not matured enough yet so it's not happening at the same time a mature the way they mature it's not happening at the same time we call it they are not synchronized ma cross pollination so that is the outbreeding devices right what is that first one we call it dichogamy mala dai mole ni a marriage mole gami a marriage kha himai hai anu le apate marriage pin kha a mature hunu ma akibal law changa kha it will prevent self pollination but it will favor cross pollination so this is the first thing dichogamy yeah pollen to arki release sun kha stigma a mature hun ma a receive thei hun a receive tu pen stigma hi ma lo ma style mo le hello ma le stigma tung pen pen mi ha mo le pollen grains they receive pen kha stigma chale stigma a receive tu kha receptive hun kha they are not happening at the same time zal chu bak jaga ati chen hun ki bang lawe cha ngama le so this is the first outbreeding devices cha nga khat no cha banga thil to am deu amin changai lo changa thil haksa deu ma thei lo di chi vela bangel kha sia u chi hilo self pollination sort piom chang kha inbreeding depression am chin hoya aberration som theilo azia kha plants dia kha about le bawa thil ane te kha devices te kha cross pollination favor na dinga omte banga wai te kha outbreeding devices hilal mala out chi changa chu cross china so dichogamy gal zoma pollen release to stigma receptive kha ki bangla synchronize la wai changa kha so it will favor cross pollination outbreeding mala no self pollination no self pollination but it will favor cross pollination so this is the first one second na bang tu ne second na khen khate bang a style te stigma style ovary tu ne khen khat a style te kha a length hon ki bang lo tai chu a style te khen khate sang omma tun enter pin kha nya ma om uchanga kha self pollination chu haksa male aya om pin kha haksai changa kha cross pollination cha ai pin kha pollinating agent stand point dem chin mundanga pollination om thei dai di cross pollination favors odi so a length of the state a length hetero ki banglo cha ni cha hetero a style kha style ti kha hen kha ti kha hon sao zo mo chi changa kha self pollination om thailo di cross pollination om thaini azal cho mau kha aleng tu kha tang pya kha ki ban ngai ju in order to take the pollination to take place mo tang pya ga they have to be the same size same length wai kha same length pin kha om lo no male same length kha om lo jo same length om lo changa kha it will favor what cross pollination so heterostyle styli kichima what is heterostyle kha so the plants will have long styles and short stamens therefore it will prevent self pollination but it will favor cross pollination here in order to self-pollination they have to be the same length, but these are not the same length. See, the styles and the short stamen, they are totally different. It will favor cross-pollination. Number 2 na self-incompatibility. This is very interesting. Mi hình lấy ja ki compatible lo le mi chu ki ngai thei lo chu mo le compatible ngai mo le mi dei dan interest mo le long sim chi khong ki bet ngai chu mo le dan de wa plan ste le amao kha self amao le amao hi flower ita chu stigma style ovary ya enter ita chu mam amawa ti kha amao enters ti kha amao kha self chu amao he mo amawa ti kha hon pai jang kha amao kha pom lo we chu amao self kha. But if it is another flower male another flower hi le kha pom pano self amao le ma kha ki compatible lawa anom chang chu bang self pollination thelo di cross pollination ki favor di chu nai chu male ji chu he sa ma dinga to kha le te vel bang in sung kwan te vel bang ken khate bang lew chen tanaw te vel bang cha mi vel cha ho changa ki welcome khollo ha ki ngai sa khollo chan de omela mo le mi khen kha bang mi dang hi changa chu kam siam ma mi dang hi changa chu kam siam in chen lo le for till jing pi khong don changa le no te khong in for example la hi lo le no thak khong hon ki thil thak khong hon to hiao mo le mu nge lo vel hon ki pelo te chi khong le bidang pia chi vel ma hai pen for example entale self kha amao le flower le amao le mawa kha compatible lo ma amawa te chang ha welcome lo nang kon de ke chu mo dang te pai changa chu phalu hoi pen kha cross pollination kha favor da in chin hoi kha ya dia kha plan sia da kha hoi zo self ti chang kha amao le maw ma self kha compatible lo chin that will favor what cross pollination easy male amao on flower ati kha la lo pom lo de lo adhi lo chang kha self pollination thailo le bangom thei cross pollination. So that is the devices. The third outbreeding devices is known as self-incompatibility. Amao ne mao hi changa kha fertile lo ta boy chu self-sterile lo ma midang hi changa chawa fertile lo ye. Same flower hi changa kha no male hai different plants ate hi changa kha male same species really different plants ate changa kha yes cross pollination om the simple male next gal zo le alina thum nai ta alina unisexuality kichi uni khat chau nei ma flower khada gamit khat chau nei male plant here female plant here female gamit here male gamit here khat chat chen khat chau nei changa chu self pollination om thailo de monga bela ma le simple de wa so en le monoecious chapter 1 enula manga chapter 1 ki gen sota monoecious flowers kong a hilo le dioecious flowers kong le unisexual yunjin ete bang chai chile for example a tun a maize en le yeah maize kha a male flower ita chu ai kha a theija vitamin cha ban ha asamam vela male sam hai ineu la hong ai sam vel ki la sam te vel la anje sam vela ki koi cho hai pen kha different flowers different parts separate parts here but within the same flower male hai kha male tani male kha ja ki bol engine lo hai kha female male diagrammatic representation hai kha separate parts different branches am male male but within the same plant here a plant ki bang ai wanga a flower te kha a male to a female pen kha separate branches sa mu here why changa kha me se chu hi monoecious ki chi and then why kha amau kha self pollination am thailo ma adang te to ki pollinate so it will favor cross pollination check dioecious is changa kha ki bang lo top hai kha female plant hai kha male plant papaya in lay monoecious zoma monoecious zo chu dioecious flower intale for example hai kha example a easy pen chu papaya tun papaya kha singtang mai male singtang mai en lay khen kha changa singtang mai teu pak me wanga la ga thenge lo chi le chu amau chu bang male papaya nei kha hi dino ai sa ga ngei lo ma chu plant khat tha male papaya om to bin chin female papaya ne le chu ga di flowers che le mala ke pat lo na chu la cha rom di khat flowers che new khat flowers che le an ding khat kha lai ki maum de li khat khai cha aka om siang suang mai thei ma om siang suang di ki bang lo chu so amau kha dioecious different plants sa ma monoecious too in the same plant but they are on separate branches dioecious too different plants sa ma le dioecious bang china different plants sa to bu different plants hai kha male papaya female papaya hai kha male papaya which are dioecious hi chang ale self pollination am din again ta hi mi mu ya kong ki bang ta lo chu mole ya enters pollen grains ti kha ya stigma ava to same amlo we chang chu hai stigma hi ta ya pollen grains ta cross pollination am ngai lo mo mole cross pollination checked te siam mo hai kha unisexuality chu male gamete to female gamete kha apak sung khada om lo ma bisexual chi changa chu pak sung khada om hi lo ma very easy tun hai pa kita stigma style ovary to enter in the same flower om changa hai bisexual ki chi chu male simple dewa e bisexual hi ya male reproductive to female reproductive mi khadin nei ya ki nei lo male bisexual ki lo flower te chu bisexual le thiu unisexual le thi why unisexual ten kha outbreeding devices kha e om thei azak chu ma kha e separate branches samun chin cross pollination om thei or different tree different plants chin papaya male papaya female papaya te khongle cross pollination om thei mala there can be cross pollination here so this is the fourth outbreeding devices so unisexuality means they'll have separate male and female gametes and then different parts of the plant we can see in maize where the enter here the male flower and the female flower we are on the same plant but they are on different branches that is known as monoecious mono means in the same plant in khada ma ya in ni ya in khat maize kha in khat ai wanga kha different branches right and ha dioecious is changa kha different plants male papaya female papaya self-pollination there can never be self-pollination but there will be what cross-pollination so does it fit in the criteria of outbreeding devices where it favors cross-pollination yes or no yes so unisexual flowers monoecious and dioecious they are outbreeding devices there is one more point monoecious too we cannot exactly say that autogamy and ketogamy I think you remember autogamy chu within the same flower hamala within the same flower it prevents autogamy but not ketogamy kha bangale remember lai ya ketogamy chu bang the pollination within the same parts within the same plant but different flowers ever male why chu hil why pen male so it will prevent what autogamy but not ketogamy because they are in different parts male dioecious too it will prevent both autogamy as well as ketogamy zak chu about ha atom to mai chu male ma kho xenogamy chawa kha why types of pollination pena en home leuchin so maize kha monoecious kha we can also write the next point. Within the same flower, autogamy, but not bang gitonogamy. Isa chu gitonogamy chu different flowers of the same plant. Male, why chu hilo? Chile dioecious bang prevents both plant tom chang wa ha mo plant tom top tak chang wa khai do prevents both autogamy self-fertilization as well as gitonogamy. Are the male part or the male reproductive structure in the other branch of this papaya? No, totally different. Jumale gitonogamy le hikhalo. It will prevent both autogamy and gitonogamy. XII gitonogamy. Spelling na muthei here, muthei lo. Gitonogamy hai lamak. Muthei tamo. Gitonogamy. Gitonogamy. So these are the so unisexual flowers ka different male and female gametes. So they'll never have self-pollination, but they'll favor cross-pollination. We can see in monoecious as well as dioecious. Monoecious, example maize plant. It will prevent both autogamy and gitonogamy. Dioecious papaya, it will prevent both. Monoecious, it will prevent autogamy but not gitonogamy. Dioecious, it will prevent both autogamy as well as gitonogamy. So these are the outbreeding devices. Jama outbreeding devices dekha bangale ban kha first kha dichogamy chubang a stamen enter mature danto a stigma mature dan ki banglo mala akibalo changa kha self-pollination om thelo di. Heterostyle, one style is long, stamen is short. Self-pollination om thelo di. Self-pollination om thene dia kha same length ta amai mo same length ta. Athar kha self-incompatibility, self-sterile, amau flower sungate kha amau kha germinate saklo himu dangate flower dangate chok germinate sago. So we call it self-sterile or self-incompatibility. Amau le mau kha ki compatible lo. Atha lina kha unisexual, which we can see in monoecious and dioecious flowers when they are on the same plant but different branches, as well as they are in different plants. It will favor cross-pollination but not self-pollination. So those were the outbreeding devices, the devices which will enhance or favor cross-pollination but not self-pollination. Why? Because self-pollination, mostly they always have continuous self-pollination. They will form in breeding depression. More it will result in breeding depression. Male hoi kha hoi lo a long term idea kha. We need variations. Male so cross pollination om tiang kha we have variations. So here cross pollination bang jaga hoi zo self pollination sa ngai chile bang because it will result in variations differences. Male anu apada ata kha a generation kha variations. That is why it's favored. To our next topic ha pollen pistil interaction. Pollen ki thing tamo pollen grains ka pistil kha atuk danu bang chano kenter go pollen teng atu teng pistil in an accept dimo an accept lo dimo mo bang chira to ki enter go chi mo to draw the lay pollen grains. So to interact, there are some few criteria that they have to follow or achieve so that the interaction could take place. pollen grains ka tang pia ka you know that same species sa hingai chu male rose le rose ti dan dewa species tom tom chu thei lo de ma so pollen grains ka so the pollen grains of the anther will come and sit carried by the pollinating agents which we have already discussed the last class on tung taon chen stigma kha ta stigma kha and receive ta stigma king ai chu stigma kha very important because it all depends on the stigma ka allow di mo ka allow lo di pollen tube form na dinga pollen tube form theina dinga ka allow mo ka allow lo de chi kha kwa kinga stigma kinga so stigma receptive le yes a receptive lo le no chi le no hi mai ma le pollen tube form thei lo di hoya dia kha bang banga poi mo chemicals chi khong mo stigma ka chemicals chi kha ki bat ngai for example kha boron khong tel ngai cha bana ya kha changa kha pollen tube on ki form thei pandi bana ovule sunga loading XII synergids remember antipodal cells central cell ya kha hon lo thei ding in chin hon lo thei changa kha gametes ni te kha hiom cha male gametes ti om cha ya male gametes ti kha hiom ke u cha lu dia aki allow le chemicals boron khong kha om ngai mo om lo le receive thei lo the chemicals atel ngai bana ya kha stigma style enzymes le om pectinase ki chi ma pectinase le om pectinase ten le pollen pen kha ana check diu mo le checkpoint ta gam velizen cha checkpoint tam vele mo le ya id bangana toy lo le kinung le ki dok ki chi ma aki toile yes you can go on check check post tampi dan de wa haile tampi go through you masapena stigma in kha receive de wa kha phalna chemicals che kha aki compatible hiam mo aki bang hiam boron male om hiam pectinase om hiam aki compatible hiam very important the lamin again vela mole can khate self incompatible male ma self sterile bangom mo to self compatible ngayo compatible chang chawa kha pollen tube ki form pandi ma pollen tube ki form pandi in chin abana bang male gamete ki release dicha male gamete ki release ding abana fertilization thei pandi here step ba me chu hidden dana mala so apoi mo te chu ba the banga pollen pistil interaction what is it? It is the combination of all the events from the deposition of the pollen into the stigma and then the criteria they criteria dekha ane ule like chemicals enzymes compatibility I think ane ule then they will form the pollen tube then the pollen tube carries the two male gametes and they will deposit in the synergids and then from here fertilization will take place. So all the events from the pollen deposition, okay, till the receptivity or till the stigma receive and then the formation of pollen tube, till the embryo sac. Male embryo sac na kahwa event ting khabang kichi pollen pistil interaction. So you can write down what is pollen pistil interaction. All the events from pollen deposition on the stigma until the pollen tubes enter the ovule are altogether known as pollen pistil interaction. Compatible ngai, same species sahi ngai, boron pectinase enzyme tenle allow lo le pollen tube. If they form also, they'll form a small pollen tube and they'll not be able to further grow along the style. Pollen tube leo khat form man le haya kha style pectinase enzymes ten kha enzymes ni kha na phal lo le kha lu thei twan lo di mala so I think om chang cho fertilization om thei dan hipan nei chu. So what is pollen pistil interaction? All the events from pollen deposition on the stigma until pollen tubes enter the ovule are altogether known as pollen pistil interaction. Mala compatible ngai. Yeah. right ngai no Mr. Right ngai chứ Mr. Wrong tia ki lu sak lo chứ Mr. Right ngai a pistil in a recognize ngai I accept ngai accept the pollen tube form thei ding reject the bang pollen tube form loading you know the stigma has to accept or reject it depends on the stigma. If it accepts, then it will form pollen tube. If it rejects, then it will stay there and it will die. But it will accept or reject, and for that, they have to continuously the communication between the pollen grain and the stigma. It occurs continuous dialogue major. Bao thay lo ya mo ida na kam mane ya nei lo male so amao kam chu bang stigma in bang chi the male chemicals te pathogens te compatible same species hi yam chi te ma bona check zo changa kha after they check then the stigma will receive or reject male so it all depends on the stigma. Yeah, so the ability of the pistil, the ability of the pistil to recognize the ability of the pistil to recognize the pollen. I recognize now the pollen here. Bana, it will be followed by its acceptance here. Acceptance, accept them more. Acceptance or reject them. Acceptance or rejection. Acceptance or rejection. Here bangcha. It is due to the. Or is the result of is the result of continuous dialogue. Ibang about hello hilele about dialogue ha chemicals enzymes chikhong compatibility chikhong pistil in a bona and demo continuous dialogue. Continuous dialogue. Why na ball? Continuous dialogue mediated by chemical pectinase te boron te chemical chu hai tiam lo chang ha pollen tube form thei lo chu ma le hai pi anei lo cha kha form thei lo so it will be by the chemical components of the pollen. Chemical components of the pollen interacting with the pistil. Interacting with the pistil. Important. Hai tengo zo changa kha pollen tube form thei panding bana embrace kaluding two male gametes will be released. So all those events, from the deposition of the pollen till the exception of the pistil, or and then formation of the pollen tube, that whole event is known as pollen pistil interaction. And how do they recognize? How do they accept and reject? It is due to the result of continuous dialogue mediated by chemical components of the pollen interacting with the pistil. Clear? Interaction dia nom zo chang ha accept lo di kha hon ki thei pan ni don't accept ta chin ni accept ta criteria teng zo ta cha pollen te male chemical components stigmine chemicals male enzymes here compatible Compatibility omelette, then they'll form the pollen tube. Pollen tube. Pollen tube male gametes on two male gametes. That is the formation of the microsporogenesis akizota eka embryosic. So these 2 male gametes will enter and fuse with the egg cell and the central cell, that is the 2 polar nuclei. So till here, check mala. So this event is known as what? Pollen pistil interaction. Text mo on show you. Leochin. Pollen tube mala hai kha ki reject ta ki accept ta cha ki accept ta cha ki accept ta cha nga kha pollen tube form theta chemical components, continuous dialogue between the pollen and the stigma, remember the pistil, and then it allows the pollen tube, and then here it forms it releases the 2 male gametes mole, and fertilization will take place. One will fuse with the egg cell, one will fuse with the one male gamete will fuse with the egg cell, which is in the middle, and one will fuse with the polar nuclei. This one we'll study in the next class. See here, the male gametes were asante kha, male gametes dekha, they have male gametes dekha, ya kha synergy da lude unchin egg cell to fuse you, 2 polar nuclei to fuse you. So this is the pollen pistil interaction. Khát bố do lại lệ sao lố mà tuôn ken hay pollen cái đấy chỉ thì ngà hay pen stigma pen à cái few sakut chỉ đi mà you know, artificially I want to do it like for example we are farmers now hello le horticulture khong agriculture khong asem ki ta cha hai pen kha ei le ya kha with our own we can do it artificially, we can you know form a hybridization to hybrid form di ma male and female na de pen kha atom kha a same flower se lawa ma not within the same flower in different flowers kha na bolu le bang che bol di. Then for example hai kha stigma style ovary hai kha enter ita cha hai pa kai ta chu stigma style ovary. So artificial dewa, how will we do it? Here like a mature masangwa enters dekha before they mature. You can cut it out because you don't need these pollens. Understood? Because we are doing artificially. I don't need this pollen, so I'll artificially cut it out before it becomes mature. Mature man they can you know self-fertilize here. Self-fertilize self-pollination. So to prevent that, I can just cut it out. I cut it out, and then before it matures, and then apolamacha. Hai kada ilo pollen te khong wale om thei hoi te kha apara ki ven na dinga kha to prevent that you can bag it. First you cut the anthers, cut or remove the anthers. Male abana hai kha here baked butter paper. You can use butter paper also. So bisexual flower self-fertilization, to prevent the self-fertilization in bisexual flowers, since they were both the reproductive organs were in the same flower. First of all, you can remove the anthers before they become mature, then so that you can protect the stigma, and then you bag it. So this is the first step. This one is emasculation. What is emasculation? Removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther are released, or we can say before the anther the his removal release of anthers, right? So you can artificially, like I want to improve the microbes. I want to you know mix and match different flowers of the same species, or not of the same within the same flower. So this is done to improve the you know crop improvement programs approach. So in order to improve microbe in the program, program which is used, we called artificial hybridization. Okay, this is one of the major approaches of crop improvement program, where I take my own desired, okay, pollen grains for pollination, and you covered or you bag the stigma, which is known as number 2, bagging by butter paper or cover with bag to prevent contamination of the stigma with unwanted pollens. Unwanted pollens, if I don't want that pollen, to prevent from that, I will bag it. Very simple, right? So this is known as what? Artificial hybridization. So now I bagged it. So what will I do? So this is my pollen grains, my desired pollen grains. Okay, this is my desired pollen grains. So I take it and I open the bag, and then I put it in the stigma, lay it on the stigma, and then the pollen tube will form and fertilization will take place. And then after that, I will rebag again. In that way, you can do, you can form the hybrid artificially. You can do cross, pollination of your desired pollen grains. All right. So what is emasculation? What is emasculation and bagging? Okay, important. What is emasculation? Removal of anthers from the flower bud before the anther dehisce. Number 2, what is bagging? You cover with a bag to prevent contamination of the stigma and unwanted pollens. And after that, you put your desired pollen grains into the stigma, and then fertilization will take place and you get artificial hybrid. So this is a major approach in what? Crop improvement programs. So this is for, this is true, or this is possible, since they are in the same flower. This is what? Bisexual, bisexual flowers. Correct. But if it is unisexual, then if they are, the male and the female gamete are in the same, are in different plants, do we need to do it? No, nah? So no need of emasculation in unisexual flowers, since they are already in separate branches or different plants. It is possible only in artificial hybridization is possible in bisexual, where you take your desired pollen grains, cut it, and you bag the stigma, and then you put the desired pollen grains and rebag it, and then allow the pollen tube to form and fertilization can take place. Thank you, class.